I just want to offer a few comments about the meeting that we just had, and then in the general sense, the energy sector, which is very, very important to Weyburn. Weyburn's one of the energy sector centers in the province of Saskatchewan. I first want to just say thanks to Mayor Button and her council, not just for the meeting we had and the honest feedback, but for what has been a partnership that we've had with the Weyburn City Council on a number of different issues. And it's been a partnership that it has been informed by honest and direct input from the mayor and council, and from the MLA, actually, from Mr. Dustin Duncan as well. So just a quick canvas of maybe what we talked about, and I think the mayor can perhaps offer a few comments as well. But you know, we talked a lot about the energy sector. It is vital to Weyburn and area, and we talked about Energy East. I'm grateful for the support of the City Council of Weyburn. They've actually passed a resolution, I believe, in support of Energy East, and we had a bit of a discussion about how we could make a better case perhaps across the country for this particular pipeline that will replace, at least help replace, Canada's need to import oil from places like Saudi Arabia. That'll create thousands of jobs right now. It's a shovel-ready project that doesn't require any government funding, and so and it's obviously important to Western Canada to be able to get our product to Tidewater, to get a better value, a better price for that oil for those who own it, which are the people of Saskatchewan and the people of Canada. So I appreciate that support. We also talked a bit about the well cleanup initiative we've proposed to the federal government. As you'll know, I've said, look, this wouldn't be a perfect program because there will be, you know, some companies getting help to do some cleanup. There are a lot of orphan wells, though, that, and perhaps a growing number if we have insolvencies on the part of oil companies, that we'll be able to clean up through the initiative, and we'll be able to put energy sector workers back to work. This is not about money for oil companies. This is about putting people in Weyburn and area back to work, cleaning up wells that are going to need to be cleaned up. I want to make something clear. The council asked a question of me, and they said, well, are you proposing this federal support for this program in place of, or they thought maybe we were offering it in place of infrastructure dollars? And the answer is no. We have an infrastructure ask, very specific for Saskatchewan, of the federal government. But over and above that, we're saying if you want to do something directly for the energy sector, we think this is an idea that might work, that might get folks in the patch back to work, cleaning up wells. So I just want to make that clear. It was very good feedback to have from Weyburn. That was some thought that, well, we were going to forego an ask on infrastructure in place of this. And that's just not the case. We think infrastructure investment here is warranted. Let's remember that Saskatchewan taxpayers are paying $500 million into the equalization program this year. Saskatchewan's happy to be a have province. But, you know, as a result of that, even though we have low oil prices, we are still paying into the equalization program. And our offer to the federal government has been, look, if you think there should be a provincial share in some of these initiatives, an infrastructure, an oil cleanup program, take it out of that $500 million that we're sending in, and will be for the next number of years because of a problem that is a lag problem in the equalization formula. We also talked about twinning. 39 and 6 remain a priority for the government. The tenders will go out on the first part of twinning between Beanfate and Estevan. There are some routing issues with respect to the area that's closer to Weyburn, and we know we lost another life on the highway on Friday. This must be a top priority for us. We've also encouraged the federal government, if they have extra infrastructure dollars, to point them towards twinning of 39 and 6, and we're going to continue to do that work as well. Talked about a carbon tax, or at least I did. I just wanted to introduce the topic at the council meeting and indicate that, you know, our own legislative framework in Saskatchewan allows for us one day to have a carbon levy on high emitters. Our point is now's not the time. In Saskatchewan, the economy does not need a new tax hike in terms of education and property tax, as I announced at SUMA, nor a carbon levy. And we don't need a national carbon tax. That would increase the cost of gas at the pumps, and would increase people's heating bills, and would increase the cost for industry. That might hit agriculture hard. Agriculture right now is what's pulling a lot of weight in our economy, in our diversified economy. And so, you know, we don't want there to be a carbon tax. Certainly not now. We think now's not the time for that. And then there were other local issues I'll let maybe the mayor comment on. The hospital remains a priority. We've budgeted for the planning dollars for a new hospital here. There definitely needs to be one. We talked about some general community issues. Infrastructure is always at the top of the list for communities, and here it's a water reservoir, and there's water and sewer, by the way, demands right across this province that we need to meet. All levels of government need to meet.
On the issue of the carbon tax, if it does happen, are you attempting to get an exemption for SaskPower being a Crown Corporation? The carbon emissions from that do obviously constitute quite a large part of our GHG emissions in Saskatchewan. Would you seek to have it exempt from any kind of carbon tax?
Well, you're on to something there, because of course we can't notwithstand. There's a notwithstanding clause in Canada. We can never use it on a federal tax. If the federal government implements a tax, then it applies to the whole country. That's how it should be, I would argue. However, it's also true that there might be a challenge for Saskatchewan on the basis of a federal government cannot tax a provincial government. And so, obviously, SaskPower is a Crown Corporation. There's an advantage to having Crown Corporations in this respect, because we might be able to make the case that the federal government actually cannot tax SaskPower. And if that happens, that at least that helps, because SaskPower is the largest emitter, and then SaskPower's customers, including the industry, businesses and homeowners, might well be protected. We're looking at that option. Of course, this is all very notional because the feds have only sort of floated this trial balloon. We don't know if they're proceeding with it or not. But as soon as we heard the trial balloon, I think we want to respond proactively and say this is a concern that they would implement one. We also need to canvass all of our options should they implement one, about whether we could challenge it, and that's perhaps one area.
If it was a carbon tax that was revenue neutral, would that change your position on this?
Well, that would be obviously less problematic for the country. And I had that question tweeted at me actually over the weekend, I think by a Globe and Mail reporter as well. But my answer is this: that the problem even with revenue neutrality is that it by definition it's going to hurt a certain sector, and the neutral part of it is made up in other sectors. Perhaps you reduce some other taxes while you have a higher tax on carbon. Well, it's the energy sector that would be challenged the most by any carbon tax, because it is a higher emitter of CO2. And so, again, the timing's not right for that. I understand the neutrality argument. It makes some sense. But if our premise is not now, because the energy sector, we've already lost 2,000 jobs, Saskatchewan jobs in the energy sector, and if our argument is not now, no, let's not add any more stress or do more further harm to the energy sector, then even revenue neutral carbon tax would not meet that test.
Did you get the kind of backing from council on the issue of the $156 million for the oil patch cleanup? Did they endorse that idea?
Well, I'll let the mayor comment. We're going to meet with businesses a little bit later on today too. And again, I think it's worth repeating. Anytime you ask for federal support or you want to propose a new program, you have to admit it's going to be imperfect, because governments are good at imperfect. The bottom line is we have 2,000 people out of work. And here's work that needs to be done for the sake of the environment. And so let's put these opportunities together and get people back to work. And I think we've got a lot of support from Southeast, from Southwest and West Central Saskatchewan for this idea, where there are a lot of people that are wondering how are they going to make their next mortgage payment, and they'd like to get back to work.
Two of your ministers are making an announcement today about the wildfire management
Correct.
Program. Why did you decide to scrap the 20-kilometer policy?
Well, I think we were listening to stakeholders, listening to northern leaders, and it had gotten this name of Let It Burn, and obviously that's not very helpful. That was never the intent of the program. The intent of the program was to prioritize communities and sort of important people first, and then important assets, put out fires in proximity to that. And let forest regeneration be a principle in other more remote parts. Those principles will still be at work, but I think what we heard was an arbitrary line might not recognize the speed of fires or the immediate change that can happen. And so I think we need to not be restricted by that perimeter and rather be informed by our experts and local leadership who are pretty good and pretty experienced about knowing when fires should be fought. I also want to note here, if I can, that I think Mr. Broughton, to his credit, had a press conference moments ago in Regina and announced that they would be announce some of the things for their campaign, I guess, including the fact that he's going to find savings by eliminating $60 million worth of consulting fees in government, I think it is. I just want to be fair here, but I'm honestly not sure their homework has been done on this, or that Mr. Broughton might know what he's talking about in this regard, because there have been a greater use of consultants across government, mostly in highways. And the reason for that is we've undertaken record highways budgets and huge highways projects, like, for example, the Twinning project. like, for example, the bypass. These require consultants, and we don't want to hire permanent professionals or permanent civil servants if we can take care of the work through the hiring of consultants. So yes, the number's gone up because infrastructure building is up across government, in the crowns, and certainly in the highway sector, but in health as well. And so I think it's very naive on the part of Mr. Broughton to say, well, he's going to eliminate these consultants. When he's eliminating those consultants, he will be eliminating projects. He'll be eliminating hospital projects. He'll be eliminating highways projects. And I think they need to do a little bit more homework on this. It's good to see them coming forward rather than sort of just opposing. To their credit, they're offering some things here, but the things have to be based on fact and sound judgment. And I would just be very concerned if these projects that depend on consultants, engineers and others, like highways twinning and hospitals, for example, are thrown by the wayside because of a campaign promise that wasn't really well thought out by Mr. Broughton.
Let's talk about that campaign promise a little bit, because obviously we are getting closer and closer to that April 4th set election date. Cam Broughton's launching his campaign today. You're here arguably ramping up campaign efforts. So why are we not in the RIP period?
Because we haven't called the election.
Right. So when's that coming?
Well, it's coming soon and very soon. It'll come soon. We have a set date, so we'll certainly, there's parameters in terms of how long the election must be, and I'll go visit the Lieutenant Governor well within the parameter of when the election must be called. I want to point something else out. The number one issue in this campaign will be the economy. It'll be how do we keep Saskatchewan's economy strong, because it's comparatively strong. There are challenges in the energy sector, but we created 5,200 jobs year over year, even with losses in the energy sector. And it is more diversified than it has been before. Credit not the government, but the resource sector, and I hope the business climate that's been set in Saskatchewan. And in what Mr. Broughton outlined today, including his principles upon which he'll campaign, he never mentioned the economy. He had to be asked about it. The number one issue in this election campaign will be jobs and the economy, and who's best suited to keep things strong and moving forward in the province. And soon, in answer to your question, soon and very soon, the campaign will begin in earnest, and I think the NDP are going to have to do better with respect to their answer on the economy and jobs.
Aren't we already kind of campaigning right now, though, and just on the taxpayers' dime instead?
Well, no, I don't think so. We've been, we're going to meet with industry today. We met with the mayor and council. I do that, whether the election is 1 month off or whether it's 2 years off, to meet with mayors and council and get their feedback on particular issues in their community. So I'm going to keep doing that right up until the RIP's dropped. I would also point this out. I mean, we haven't stopped door knocking right from the moment of the last election was concluded. We were door knocking again. We've door knocked 97,000 doors this year, just checking in with people, asking them what their concerns are. And so I guess you could say we've never really stopped. If campaigning is door knocking and working hard to listen and earn the support of people, we've never stopped.
Can you tell me if it's going to be a longer end of the campaign period or a shorter end of the campaign period?
Yeah, it's going to be not the longest campaign in history. Sorry to be.
Well, since the economy is the number one issue here, since we do have a date now for the third quarter fiscal update and that 4-year financial plan, how many days are going to separate that release and
You guys don't know about does anyone want to talk about the riders or Deb Button? She's an outstanding mayor at Weyburn. No, the fiscal update is going to happen. And by the way, it's not just a third quarter report. You're quite right. It's a fiscal update. So it'll be more than that. There'll be projections there. People will be able to have a look at revenue projections and expenditure projections. And so, much like the federal government did yesterday, with a bit of a preview or an update on where the finances are, we'll do more than just a third quarter report. Saskatchewan voters should be able to look at that fiscal update and then look at the platforms, the fully costed platforms of all the parties running, and determine whether or not there's going to be a balance anytime soon, and be able to see quite easily that the promises fit within the fiscal reality of the province.
Speaking on that, the federal finance minister announced that there's about $250 million going to Alberta in a stabilization payment. Have you heard anything about it?
Yeah, we don't qualify for that, and it's a part of the sort of the Byzantine and complex nature of all these formulas that exist in Ottawa, but we don't qualify for it. And that's actually good news, because our budget has been hit hard, but not as hard as Alberta's. And our economy has faced the challenges in the energy sector with prices as low as they are. But the challenges, but our economy has been more resilient, I would say, because it's more diversified, and there's still jobs being created. And the retail sales numbers were out yesterday, and if you remove gas from the equation, gasoline, which has driven retail sales down just because the price has fallen. Doug Elliott, I think, the very renowned statistician and expert, removed the gasoline prices. It demonstrated that retail sales are up year over year. There's a lot of indicators that our economy is comparatively strong. So there's certain things we won't qualify for, that we don't want to qualify for. The budget has to be dealt with. We'll deal with that. The government needs to deal with that. But I want people to know that their economy is still strong, and that's something we should keep in mind as we go through the current budget challenges. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't be hurtful now.
All right.
What message did you deliver to the mayor, to the premier today? And obviously,
You got a promotion today.
Yeah, that's right. You've got, I guess, oil concerns here. It must be number one.
Well, a couple of messages council delivered today. Number one was thanking the premier for his constant support of the oil and gas industry. Obviously, that industry has really been what's driven Southeast Saskatchewan in the last few years, and we're very, very appreciative that he has really stood behind that industry. And we talked a lot about the carbon levy, and now is not the time for the industry. We talked about those orphan well sites, and of course putting people to work in Southeast Saskatchewan or across Saskatchewan, as he's more concerned with, truly is a good idea, and council was supportive of that. We had a few questions on what that project would look like, but overall he answered those questions that we had very well, and council came out supportive of the orphan well project and putting people to work and getting the industry, getting those orphan well sites cleaned up. Now is the time to do that, when the price is lower and we have an opportunity to do it at a cheaper cost.
So you were reassured then that this wouldn't affect infrastructure spending that would be also coming either in the federal and provincial budgets?
Absolutely. That was one of the conversations that we did have with the premier, was to make sure that this money for those orphan well projects wasn't going to come out of any of the infrastructure money. As you know, the gap across Saskatchewan for infrastructure is in the billions, and we're no exception to that rule. We talked today with the premier in regards to our water reservoir. This is something that the City of Weyburn has been working on, and we've been told that we are beyond capacity, and we have a shovel-ready project, and by shovel-ready, the City of Weyburn already has the engineered design, and we are ready to go. And we are being told that the federal budget won't be dropped until the end of March, and we should already be tendering this project. So we're concerned about that. We asked the premier if he has any ability to move those dollars or to help move them out of Ottawa quicker. We would appreciate that. We need to get this project done, and we can't do this $16 million project on our own.
What about hospital?
There was some discussion about the new Weyburn General Hospital. The City of Weyburn itself has had a levy on our residents for about 3 years now. Last year in the budget, which we know was a tight budget for the province, we were very appreciative here down in Weyburn to receive funding for the go-ahead for the planning of the new hospital. Those plans, that business plan has been submitted, we understand, so we're just going to wait to see what the answers coming back out of Regina will be, but we are confident that a new hospital will be coming our way.
You mentioned it a little earlier, but did you talk about revenue sharing at all with the premier?
Absolutely, we talked about revenue sharing. In fact, that was the first thing on our agenda upstairs. First and foremost, we thank the province for their commitment with revenue sharing. There was a little bit of a hiccup last year, you'll recall, and Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association at our convention worked hard to solidify that revenue sharing with the province, and we did talk about making that a permanent piece of legislation, and as we know, any government could get in and change it. But we have the commitment from Brad Wall's government that while he has the ability to form government, revenue sharing and the program that's in place will be what it is. So we're grateful for that, but we want to solidify that as Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities. And we had that discussion as well today with the premier.
And did he commit to that?
Yes, he did.
So how would you say Weyburn is faring in this current economic climate, and what sort of general support are you looking for from both the feds and the province?
Well, we know that now is the time to look back and say, what have we done right, and what can we go back and make some corrections on and clean up some things that probably we did very quickly while we were growing very rapidly. And we're taking the time as a city and as an administration and as a council to do that. We had that discussion with him, and it actually fit very nicely in with the Orphan Wells program, because that's exactly what the industry is talking about. And we're faring okay here. Obviously, I don't want to minimize the impact that it's having on individual people, and we'd like to see those jobs for the Orphan Wells come back, and we'd like to see people getting back to work. And when I lay my head down at night, certainly the price of oil is always on my mind.
We talk a lot about the effect of the actual sector and the drop in oil prices. How does it affect maybe some of the I guess the fringe businesses that, you know, the restaurants and the daycares and those sorts of
Well, I stay in constant contact with a lot of them. The daycares are still doing very well. The businesses are seeing a slowdown, but you know, they're telling me that typically that happens January and February in any year. So we'll see. You know, we don't have a crystal ball, but they're faring, and they're saying they've been faring. How much longer? Well, we'll see about that. I don't have that crystal ball, and I'm certainly not an economist to really know, but I'm hearing okay.
Yeah, and just with the federal budget coming down on March 22nd, I want to have a better idea of exactly how that $300 million coming to Saskatchewan for infrastructure spending is going on. What do you think would be the earliest you could potentially have the water reservoir out to tender?
The next day, 23rd, March 23rd. Yeah, we're ready.
Yeah.
But if I could,
Yeah.
somebody wanted to talk about Energy East. And
Sure.
that was you?
Well, it's a good question.
We'll always talk
What
about
about
Energy
Energy
East.
East?
Well,
What do
we
you-
also had that discussion today up there with the Premier on the Energy East pipeline. And after the Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association, we had our annual convention. There was a resolution passed there. And a resolution got passed by Weyburn City Council, and a letter went to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau with a copy to the Saskatchewan Chamber. And today we gave that letter as well to the Premier in support of the Energy East pipeline. The economy around this province, and certainly in our area, relies on being able to move that oil out. And we are very supportive of the project. And this project is shovel ready, much like our water reservoir is, and it will have a huge impact on the jobs immediately, and then an impact on getting the oil out when the price per barrel goes back up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.